all right. How we doing, James? Welcome to the Southern Fried Sports Hour.
Doing
And
great.
I just had a weird thing happen. I don't know what's going on Instagram. It's always so much fun when you have something disappear from you. Let me see
Wow.
if I can figure this out real quick. So, we've had a couple of weird things happen and scheduling changes and stuff, but we're back and
Yeah.
looking forward to to being here, man. And I know you got your Braves on, got the Georgia flag behind you. I like that. Very
Yeah,
good.
I'm wearing the Acuna, jersey version again because Acuna, he just him leading off, he'll have a towering home run first pitch, but you kind of hate to have a guy like that leading off because you need more than one run. But to see him do that first pitch out of here is just amazing.
He does have that ability. He really does, just to crush it. And then they score like one run, the rest of the game or something. Actually,
Yeah.
we'll talk Brave in a minute. They just put themselves in such a hole, but we'll get around to that. And
But
sorry
they
for
are showing good
Instagram. I
against the
don't.
Mets right now. I mean, you got to beat the bottom teams and the top teams, and to win two in a row against the Mets, that's maybe a little too late, but it's good so far.
It's good so far. I'm going. I don't know. Instagram is acting very strange today, so we might not have Instagram with us. That's okay. It's one of those deals, but it's acting different than it normally does. So I tried to update the video and it just disappeared. So sorry for folks on Instagram. But hey, we're going to talk about a lot of different things tonight, as always. We talk all sports all the time. There's no season with us, just sports. Yeah. And we're kind of in a weird transition right now, James, where, hockey's left us, NBA's fixing to leave us. We're going to talk about those two things.
Yeah.
We've got, baseball obviously will be in the second half of the season. Your soccers are going in NASCAR. But then you got coming in, all the camps are going to open. And there's
Yeah.
already, we're right here on the edge of July. And that
Yeah.
always excited me as an NFL fan because I knew that the camps were opening up and there's
Yeah.
already things that are happening with the teams. But in July is when it starts getting real. Like you start getting daily
Yeah.
camp news, and you're just around the corner from preseason football, which means college football is not far behind. So it heats up. We don't like the heat, but we sure like football's on the way back, and I'm
Yeah.
excited about it. So we're going to look at this ESPN article tonight in a few minutes about the last quarter century of the greatest players and kind of go through that and see if we agree
Okay.
with it or not. We
Okay.
could, or we could change it.
I'm sure
But
there's some that'll be a little questionable, but most will be, okay, I guess.
yeah, it's pretty, but pretty straightforward. Uh, and some of them I didn't realize that their numbers were that good. Honestly, I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize their numbers were that good. But let's talk. Let's start out with hockey, man. Give that its due justice because hey, we got a new champion back to back,
Yep.
baby. How
Florida
about that?
Panthers. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I have my notes back here.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
they faced off last year, and you was hoping at least the Oilers would lose one, win one, but to go back to back in any sport is an accomplishment.
Oh, there's no doubt, and the fact that it's not. I love this is what I like about it, and I know it's probably maybe it's petty to even think that way, but you know what? Us Southern guys, we don't care. Sometimes because we get mocked on a little bit about winter sports. I love the fact that it's deep south and there is no
Yeah.
Canadian or very extreme north hockey team that can carry that Stanley Cup around. I love that
Yeah.
it's southern, which
Yeah.
also gives me hope that soon we will see hockey back in Atlanta. I just feel like this is going to help my
It's
campaign.
it's a big market, and you want to try to stay in the bigger markets, because you get the more revenue in the bigger markets. You get back in those.
Oh my gosh, Cook shows up. Roll Tide and go Cowboys. We love you too, brother. You got to get back up to the studio, man. I'm gonna have to put out an eye to look for you, and you're not illegal, but I'm gonna say while they're out rounding up everybody else, we're gonna pick you up too, bring you back over here. You got a warrant out for your arrest, boy. But congratulations. They damaged the Stanley Cup. Party just a little too hard. They said they would have it fixed before the parade. Hockey gets wild. They get a little crazy with their celebrations, but I guess that just goes with it. Not that all sports don't, but I think hockey players take it a little bit more on the crazy side with the Stanley Cup. And who's going to stop them? I mean, they'll fight you.
I think it was a couple years ago when Gronk and Tom Brady, they were with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were throwing that NFL trophy around. You're not supposed to be throwing the trophies around, and you want to protect those trophies, because you don't get to keep it. Your team gets to keep it in their stadium or whatever. But yeah, they were just tossing it around like it was like it wouldn't break. Those do break.
I know. And things like that do happen. But congrats to them. There was a little bit of news. Blackhawks re-signed Ryan Donato, $16 million over 4 years. That's in hockey. That's good money. I mean, you think about it. And the guy went from. He almost doubled his goal output from the year before, and assists were not quite double, but he really put it on. So looking into next year, they say the Panthers, the Oilers, and the Avalanche are all the faves to win it again. Could the Panthers triple up? That's hard.
If you keep your core players and your coaches, you got a shot, but it in this day and time, keeping 90% of your team is hard to do because, once their contract is up, another team will give more money and you just can't compete with the offer sometimes.
Yeah. So that's the process of success. Everybody wants their money and renegotiation, and there's only so much that can go around, so that you have to start making difficult decisions. We've seen it affect a lot of champions in different sports. Hey, Broski, buddy. Hey, by the way, Broski's been talking smack, James, trying to get me to say that the Big Ten was the best in the nation. Come on, man.
You can claim it for 1 year. If you win the championship, you have it for 1 year. But there's always next year, and you got to keep winning it. You got to move it to the Penn State, or you got to move it to the Michigans. You got to move it around if Ohio State don't keep it. That's why SEC was so dominant. If Alabama wasn't winning the championship, somebody else was. LSU was, or Auburn was, or Florida was, or Georgia was. So you had 5 or 6 teams that were winning the championship back in the BCS days. But, if you only got one team winning the championship, 1 or 2, which, Michigan did win a couple years ago.
They did.
So, maybe it's Penn State's turn, but, they got to win the big games when it counts.
They're going down. Hey, Broski, if you still want to come up, you'll send me an email to southernfriedpodcast@yahoo.com. I'll send you a link. We'll circle back I told him to come up and defend his position on this. He said he would. So you just pop that email in there, man, and I'll be glad to send you a link to the show, because I don't know your email. So, but if you want to just do it in the chat, that's fine too. We'll come back to it. Let's move on. The NBA. We've had a big sale, James. The Lakers.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Massive money. It's not often you hear a team being sold. This is incredible. $10 billion with a B dollars.
Yeah, I believe it.
I never thought I would see the Lakers sold. Cook, if you're still in here, big Laker fan, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the bus ownership and the bus family, they were getting older, and it's kind of what you want to do. You want to buy low and sell high. So they only bought that team for $50 million, or probably not even that much. And to sell it like that, That's that's your dream. If you sell it off, you want to, go all out. So, a team, they paid the money for it, which I think the Clippers a couple of years ago, they had that scandal with their owner and they were forced to sell and they got 3 or 4 billion, I believe, for their organization. But the Lakers, the Celtics, the Spurs, maybe teams like that, you're going to have to pay the money to get those teams to own those teams. That's why you see a lot of joint ownerships nowadays, because one person just can't, fork up that kind of money nowadays, and it has to be approved.
Hey, welcome, Anthony, to Mazzano, to the show. Thank you for being a new subscriber. We feel like the sports show is growing all the time. Tell us who your favorite. What your favorite sports is and favorite teams. Pop it in the chat. We'll pop it up. I'm going to come back to Broski's comment here in just a minute. How many teams are glad Nick Saban got too old? Oh, we got some Bama bragging going on there. That's not good. I don't like it. I understand. Oh, you love your new coach. Remember, he was a big winner on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
All them Bama fans talking about that. I just wanted to say on this real quick, 17 titles to the Lakers. All respect, 17 titles. We did beat them in 83, baby, with the Sixers. But 1980, Magic Johnson's rookie year, they crushed us in the playoffs. We had them. The Sixers had them, and anyway, we come back and got them in '83. That was the greatest decade to me. Now I know people are going to look at the last years, but to me, the Celtics, the Lakers, the Sixers, you could probably throw one or two others there. The greatest decade of playoff basketball for me. Now I like the Golden State. I think they've done some tremendous things. And as we're looking at the finals, man, I mean, it's good to see Indiana kind of getting back, but they better man up or they're going to be out.
Yeah. And, Indiana was the team that put out the Knicks 25 years ago. So it was kind of the same thing happening with a different team, and you see that a lot in sports, when a team makes that rise, an old nemesis will just take them out, if you're a fan of that team, you do not like playing that other team because you remember the past for that franchise, and you don't want to happen. So
we lost your last part. You lagged just a little bit. You got the gist of it. I know Wi-Fi has been crazy in this area for the storms and stuff. But he's a Miami fan. Hurricanes, Dolphins, Marlins, Panthers, Heat.
Okay.
So, and I know you're happy. Congrats to your Florida Panthers, man. I mean, all respect. Like I said, we appreciate that. Are you guys, what is the golden era for hockey and baseball? Man, that's tough. For me, Gretzky, man. I know
Gretzky.
some would go a little earlier than that, but Gretzky. I still think that is the golden era for baseball. That's really hard to say, man. The golden era for baseball. There has been a lot of them. I mean, if you want to talk about the great teams of the 30s, or you want to come up to the 50s, 60s, and then amazing the Cincinnati Reds, the run they had, the Yankees. We could go on with a lot of that, but that's really hard. But I will say, you take all seasons, you put them together. To me, the biggest and the best, and I know it's controversial, that baseball had going on, I think still to this day, was the home run chases that happened between Sosa and McGuire and Bonds. To me, everybody was, man, they were breaking into TV shows to watch when those guys were at the plate.
That was must see TV.
I don't think you can beat that. It was what?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yeah, must see TV. When who was gonna hit the home run next? Who was gonna pass the other one on the home run? So that was must see TV for sure.
There's no doubt about it. Cook, Detroit. No. when you guys look at my Panthers, we lost James. He'll be back. We're having some Wi-Fi issues. If you lose me, we'll have to restart. When you guys look at my Panthers, do agree with people's comparisons? They say they're the 80s New York Islanders and the 2000 Devils. I don't have any reason to doubt it, my man. No doubt about that at all. And that Devils team is really, really good. All credit to the Panthers, man. That's probably the best one, to be honest. The best blooper in baseball history, Canseco. Well, I don't know if you call it a blooper, but the dude that pulled his pants down to get the dirt out of his pants and didn't, like, he lost where he was at. Who was that? I know his name and I can't think of it. Cook says when the Braves won. Well, after such, they'd been bad for so long, that for us in the South, it certainly was. But yeah, that ball bounced it off his head. That was pretty incredible. There's been a few. Maybe you talk about the Chicago fan. What was it, Bartman or wherever he was, and messing with the baseball and stuff, and how the fans hated on him and everything. Broski says the 2010 2010s Blackhawks. That's good. See, Dave, you guys excited to be on that show? I'm wanting it. I'm wanting it. That's what I was just saying before you got on here. I am on a campaign to see hockey back in Atlanta, and I'm going to go. I am absolutely going to support it. And I think they're ready. I think after, a couple of tries at it, the timing was just wrong. But with the resurgence, actually, and I think the Panthers winning helps Atlanta in their campaign to get hockey back, because people think, that's a sport for the North and the Canadians and what, but there's Atlanta's an international city. They've got new facilities and everything. And I just think it's time. And I am excited. I'm actually very excited for it. And I think that will be, that will be happening in the near future. Now, the question is, do they try to keep things equal? Do they go one team or two teams? Now, I haven't looked into it to see who they're favored or another location that they're favoring, but usually you do expansion 2 teams to keep things equal. Northerners and Canadians can't stand the Sun Belt, that the Sun Belt has dominated the last 6 years in the Stanley Cup and won the last 5. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The state of Florida has 2 NHL teams who won back-to-back recently with the Panthers and the Lightning. And, again, that's the shift we've seen. It used to never be thought that these teams could now just need Nashville to do it. The Preds. If the Preds could do it, boy, their heads would be exploding up there. But, after all those great New York teams and Chicago and your Canadian teams, and Pittsburgh, Yager and all them. I mean, just to get some respect down here in the South for hockey is pretty spectacular. So James hasn't made it back yet. He must be having some problems. We'll continue on. I want to go back to Broski's comment. I hadn't forgot about it. You've been talking smack, man. Big Ten won it back-to-back seasons and had 4 teams in the playoff last season. SEC's 20-year run at the top is done. Finished. No, it's not finished. I don't see how you could say it's finished. Okay, they didn't get it done during those back-to-back seasons, but good and well with the talent pool that the SEC has and the money rolling through that league, to say it's finished is crazy. Dean says, lost track of time running an electric line. I got you, man. You're cool. And Dean's the 3rd member of our crew. And if I can get Cook in here, he'll be the 4th member. Cook's got to get back in here. Talk sports all the time. But I will give you credit. Broski. And yes, if you win, you can talk smack. Absolutely. I don't agree when you say it's over, it's finished. Although I see what you're saying. You think that the Big Ten is going to go on a run here and the SEC is going to be shut out. So I will be glad to help track this throughout the season. Every week we're going to have you need a segment, man. You're going to have the college football segment. You have to come in our sports show, and we're going to talk. And this show is probably going to have to expand to an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours, to get all the sports in when football gets here. We'll expand a little bit for the football season. I'd like for you to just come in and let's just measure that up, buddy, and we'll look at it league to league matchup each week. Absolutely, I challenge you. Big Ten is more elite high in teams and is deeper conference now. Well, we'll find out. Just how big a boy are you, or how big a conference are you? I say no way. And James is coming back up. Here he is. James, just to catch you up, we've been talking hockey, but we also been talking Broski's smackdown comment about this right here. This comment. And I told him coming up the football season, I want him to come in each week. And we're going to measure the SEC and the Big Ten week to week and just see who measures out. He can say it. Hey, like I said, you won, you can talk smack. But I don't think it's going to, it's going to turn itself back around. We just got to get Alabama to kick their coach back to California and get a good Southern coach. Maybe they get John Gruden. Wouldn't that be sweet to have John Gruden in Alabama? Wow. That would never happen, but wouldn't that be cool? We're talking hockey expansion. He believes Atlanta's going to get one. Rumors are they're going to try a team in Arizona, Atlanta, Portland, Cleveland, Fargo, and Boise. As long as Atlanta's in the mix, Arizona, Houston, Atlanta. Well, out of that, I mean, you're saying the rumors are they're going to try to get one in every one of those places. That's correct. That's wild. But who would be the first two? I would think because Atlanta, the size of the city, and they've had hockey there before, would have to be one of the top two.
Yeah.
I don't know who you would pick other than if you want to go Southern, you would. I think you would be Southwest Arizona because that would push more out that way. If you're going to go north, I would think Portland over Cleveland myself.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Dallas has the Dallas Stars. But, Houston's also a big market, but, how would they be for hockey,
This is okay, Broski. Broski says Cleveland should have a team. I wouldn't be against it. If you had Atlanta, Cleveland come in, I would not be against that.
I wouldn't let the football owners on the team. I know that much. The Brown owners cannot own that team.
Dave is a fan of Georgia. Would you rather have a combination of Florida State and Clemson or Florida State and Miami in the Southeastern Conference? This is easy for me, absolutely easy. It's Florida State, Clemson. Number one, you have Clemson, which is a natural. I mean, that's one of our biggest rivalries is Clemson. We battle every year over the same recruits. Yeah. It's a short straight distance between, what is that, 85 miles or something like that between the cities or something. It's not that far. And Florida State, I like Florida State. I'm actually a Seminole fan, even though I love Georgia. I've liked Florida State ever since Deion Sanders played there. I became a really big fan there, and I liked Bobby Bowden. I was a big fan of Bobby Bowden. I've kept up with him, many players. But James, what do you think about that as a Georgia fan? Which one would you rather see?
Missouri has never really made sense to me, being in the Southeastern Conference. So Clemson makes way more sense than Missouri. But Florida State, when Bobby Bowden was there, he didn't want to leave the ACC. He was like, look, we win over here. It's tough competition in the SEC. So, but, to re-up your fan base, re-up the revenue, the teams are trying to go to the SEC because that's where the revenue is. So, but the ACC was, I heard they were, going to charge them like $500 million to leave. So that a lot of teams can't cover that. So they have to stay until their contract is over.
I will say, it's shocking to me, but and I've not ever been to a game at the university, but I for a long time they really trashed the facilities of Florida State. They said their stuff was falling in. It was had legendary games there, but they have been on a building campaign, and they have really. It's like Vanderbilt; they have really done a lot with that. I think Vanderbilt got the message: get with it or get out. Is what I think happened with Vanderbilt, and they've turned some things around. If you're going to be in the SEC, you're going to have to keep your facilities on par nowadays. You cannot let that stuff run down. Florida Gators, same way. They kind of let things run down for all the great Florida teams. Their facilities were not great. SEC is not going to put up with that anymore. And some teams got with it.
The NIL has changed the landscape, but before NIL, recruiting mattered as far as your facilities and how up to date you were with the Alabamas, the Georgias, Kentuckies. Kentucky, you may not think so, but they have up to date facilities, and they're they rank right up there with everybody. So if you go to, if you see one school and their weight room is small, then you go to the next school and you can't even see the end of the weight room. You're like, man, this is a little different feel for me.
Yeah, so it definitely is. When those kids walk into not a Big Ten college campus, broski, but a SEC campus, it's like they went to heaven, man. They can't believe how that they don't want to leave. It's like the most amazing thing. Back to Anthony, he says the first two they're targeting are Houston, Atlanta. Next is going to be Arizona, Boise, Idaho. What is the attraction of Boise? Am I missing something? I mean, I don't get that. What is it? I mean, you're more in touch with it than I am. I definitely we will and do some research there, but that kind of shocks me. But I'm glad to see Atlanta is listed as the top they're targeting. So I'd be okay with that, and I'd be okay with Houston. Although I'd be okay with any of the others, especially Cleveland, Portland. I could see that, but absolutely, Portland, Maine, or Oregon. Cook says no thanks on John Gruden. What?
Well, Oregon can't have the Ducks name. That's already taken. So.
Yeah, true. Yes, I am old enough to remember the Hartford Whalers. Absolutely. Portland, Oregon is a wasteland, a socialist crapo. I think Cleveland fans would support a hockey team much better. FSU is a joke of a program right now. Well, they're not to the level they've been, but I think that to say joke, come on, man. That's a little rough. That's a little rough.
They were a quarterback injury away from competing for a national championship. Their quarterback went down a couple of years ago, and it derailed the rest of their season. But had that quarterback stayed healthy, they probably would have been in that championship game. So, sometimes that's all it takes. If you lose your starter, it makes a difference.
Yeah, I don't know, if Miami can ever get back to the glory years or whatever, but that's they've done some good things in the last few years. There's been a lot of energy, money poured into the thing that wasn't there before. Yeah, I don't know if they can make it back. I have friends who are fans around me were say that Clemson and Miami rather than Florida State Clemson. I think it's according to where you're from in the state.
Yeah,
you have. Me and James are both North Georgia.
Yeah.
If you go to South Georgia, it's probably a different look, honestly.
Yeah.
Our biggest rival for us is Florida, Tennessee. Others would say Auburn, Clemson, or whatever, a combination of everything. But that's interesting. They would think that, though. Yes, Clemson is a legit program and should have a tough team this season. They still that's a tough place to play. Dabo's always got them ready to play.
He's a Hall of Fame coach.
He is. There's no doubt about it. I really thought that Alabama would try their best to get him. Some people thought that maybe he was wearing a little thin in Clemson there because after you've been in our place for 10 years, it seems to be wearing thin. I think he's held on. I think as long as he can keep them competitive, he's not going anywhere now for a long time.
I think the issue with being the person after Saban kind of, had some coaches say, no, I don't want to be the next guy. might be the guy after him, but to follow a legend is not easy to do because they expect you to be just as good as the last guy that won you 6 or 7 championships, and it's unreasonable, but that's just the fan bases.
So you think if the coach that's Kevin was DeBoer, if he falters in the next year or so and is gone, if Bama was to offer a good enough package, you think Dabo would make that jump to Bama?
Yeah, it would really depend on how much is Clemson still in love with Dabo, because there was a point with Georgia where they loved Mark Richt. He was their guy, but they fell out of love with Mark Richt, and they moved on to the next guy. So it really has a lot to do with Clemson, if they're ready to move on themselves. Because, a lot of schools, their egos come into play and say, well, we can do, good with the next guy because we'll hire the young coordinator and he'll turn us around. But, if you're still winning, because, Georgia was, a 10-win team when Kirby Smart took over. They just couldn't go over that hump. But Clemson in the past few years has kind of, not been themselves. So if they continue on that path, I can see Dabo leaving and them, going after somebody else.
Broski says sleeper SEC quarterback this season, Bo Perbula of Missouri. He's transferred from Michigan State, should be a good player for them. Okay, we'll keep an eye on him. FSU was 2-10 last season. Their downturn started when they were crying about not getting selected. Why, your quarterback got injured. Broski. Yeah. I can see that side of Broski coming out with the college football. I love it. I absolutely love it. What other fan bases don't realize down here, the reason why Miami hasn't been able to get a stadium is because our local government is corrupt. That's true. Miami has been trying to get a stadium for 10 years. I remember hearing some arguments about that. I don't know the full ins and outs of it, but thank you for, kind of enlightening, because you would think Miami would have everything to offer and you would think money would not be in short supply or anything, but it's greed. Yeah. It's definitely greed. To me, John Gruden, this person was working in college. It's like Bill Belichick. I don't think he's going to last. I think he's going to have. Yeah. Well, that was a strange move for them to go after Bill Belichick. I'll say that. He's taking a job so he can get an NFL job. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Well,
if he's there 1 year, I'll be surprised. More than 1 year.
Maybe his hot young girlfriend said, "Hey," maybe she suggested, let's go check this team out for a while, and he said, "Okay." I don't know. But John Gruden, he is something, man. I'm telling you. I love watching those shows where he opens all the boxes and stuff. FSU last place in the ACC, which is a soft conference last season, last place out of 17 teams. Like I said, they got to get turned around, but they have a lot of talent pool down there to pull from. Florida is
they always recruit well.
They do. I love Gruden. Not sure his coaching style will go over well with the young players in college. Maybe not, but they seem to take to him on the quarterback thing and all that. That seems to do that. Would Kirby Lee? No. He's not going back to Alabama. No. The only way he would ever do that is if he was let go, and then maybe, because he was there a long time. But no, he would not leave Georgia for Bama.
Yeah, he was a Georgia alumni. He didn't graduate from Alabama.
Yeah, he's a Georgia boy all the way. He's where he wants to be. I would say he'll be there as long as he wants to be, unless something really goes wrong. Even during down seasons, Kirby's not going anywhere. He sealed his Hall of Fame career already, and he will be there. Yeah. Miami poverty, Broski. I don't know what you're talking about. We have one of the biggest NIL in the country. Take that, you Philly Charlotte fanatic.
I'll give them that.
Yeah.
Hey, let's watch this video.
We'll come back to this. I'm gonna play a video. You've all seen it. I want to get your thoughts about it. You've all seen this video. We've been kind of talking about it. So let's watch this. Caitlin Clark.
Midway point, third quarter. Sheldon all over Clark, and they get into it a bit here. Lexi Hall now gets in Sheldon's face. Caitlin Clark hits the deck. Big Ten against Big Ten. Ohio State and Iowa. Both.
Okay, here's the question: is the WNBA going to do anything about this, or are they just going to keep letting their biggest star get smacked around like that? That clearly the second hit was uncalled for.
I did see one article where Adam Silver was calling a lady named Kathy Engelbert. She called her out after the referees were exposed for the anti-Caitlin Clark agenda, and they showed frame-by-frame footage, and where they were just biased on their whistles and calling things that shouldn't be called, and some of the referees broke their silence. The full scandal has finally come to light. What they tried to hide can no longer be hidden, and now the league is trembling, according to this article. A wave of outrage like never before is erupting over Caitlin Clark. And Adam Silver can no longer stay on the sidelines. So for him to get involved in something like this, is unnecessary for him to do. They should have never let it go this far if this article has some validity to it.
I just think that there is, however it's being allowed to happen, if it's the refs just not calling it, at some point you got to put some teeth into this and start kicking players out of the game.
Yeah, you can't hurt your star. You just can't, because Caitlin Clark in 2 games, I had it pulled up and I went to that article. In 2 games, she scored 52 points, had 9 rebounds, 15 assists, and 11 threes. So this lady is your star. So you got, why are you letting this player get hurt is just beyond me.
Yeah, I don't get it. Cook says Cowboys 10+. When's this year go? Cowboys. Come on, Broski. Come on.
And Cook would agree with this. In NFL, you had a Tom Brady rule. You could not touch Tom Brady. You could not get 10 feet within Tom Brady when he was winning all those championships with the Patriots. You couldn't do it. They would call everything on you. And, if Dak was that good, it would be a rule for Dak. But you just can't do that. When you to your stars, you can't injure your stars. So
she's already been out due to injury. She just got back, is playing even better. Her threes, like you said, she's just stroking the ball. And, I don't want to, I think a cocoon should be built around her, but these thug moves, what is this? They think it's the Pistons of the 80s. Just knocking hack a shack. We've seen this before. And at some point, you have to put a stop to it. And you're right; they've let it go on too long. And the reason why we're talking about it, Broski, is I know it's WNBA, but you know what? That league is starting to get recognition because of these really good players, and they have more than her. There's a lot of excellent players in this league, but they are making themselves look really bad because the highlights are not how many points they scored, rebounds, assists. It's these hatchet jobs where they're just knocking her down, and then and then they try to act like they don't do anything. Like, I didn't mean to do that. It's ridiculous. And every week it seems like there's another hit like this, maybe 2 a week. And this is incredible. And you're right. It's went on too long, and they've got to do something. NC Native always coming with some things to make us think very funnily. Yeah, well, and that's the mentality. That is the mentality sometimes, sadly, that there's a it's like, no way are we going to let her come in and be the star. I mean,
Yeah.
there's definitely an undercurrent of that. I don't want to go too far with it. I don't want to overdo it. I think that there is an element to that. You say that, maybe joking, maybe not, but I do think that there's that. Well, I guess, yeah. Nah, Broski, come on. You gotta get Broski back on his. He decides he don't want to have women around because he thinks they should only cook, clean, do laundry, vacuum, and come on. Oh, we lost James again. Oh no, you're running right off the screen. You killed his Wi-Fi. Oh my goodness, she does have talent. She definitely has talent. Itzy, you're crazy. But yeah, I just thrown it out there to get discussion. I don't watch it WNBA every night, but I have watched some games. I've watched some games with her, with Angel Reese. I've watched other games. I try to keep up with it. I would like to take my granddaughters to go see these these really great players play, and it maybe it'd be inspiration for them in some way. I think they really enjoyed that. But you know what? If you're beating them down, not going to be much to show there. All right. James is coming back up. We're going to do the bulk of our time. We're going to look at this list. James is back in. We're going to look at this 25-year. ESPN has a list, the greatest of the last 25 years. We won't be able to spend a lot of time on any position. Feel free to pop in the chat your thoughts. They list every position, so we're going to move. And does the NBA training? Well, they're trying to imitate the NBA cook. So anyway, it's just for the last 25 years, quarter century. It's not for all time. So there will be names missing that you're going to say, hey, I don't see Jerry Rice. Well, that goes back a ways. So
Yeah.
Quarterbacks, Brady, Manning, and Mahomes. Do we have any? Can you say anything else? Now, I know Mahomes is newer, but he's won multiple championships.
I would probably add Brett Favre to that list.
Okay. They do have on the practice squad Breeze and Rodgers. Okay. It's hard.
Yeah, Breeze. I could say Breeze, but Rodgers. I would put Favre over Rodgers.
Okay. It's a list from ESPN, broskies. The last 25 years, they're called this the greatest of the great in the NFL. Let's go. Your running backs. Priest Holmes. I like Priest Holmes, but I'm not sure about this one. Christian, he did have a lot of touchdowns. He was a kind of a dual kind of back.
Yeah.
McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Henry, no doubt. There's Henry.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on the Priest Holmes one. I'm not even know. McCaffrey has done it, but he's been injured a lot.
Yeah.
But he is definitely playing at a high level right now and getting injured.
Yeah.
Just the last 25 years, broski. That they just wanted to look at the last 25 years, so it's not all time. Derrick Henry, there's no doubt. 13,074 all-purpose yards, 111 all-purpose TDs, four-time All-Pro, Offensive Player of the Year, one time. I just can't. I can't get that one.
Yeah.
Y'all's thoughts. The fullback. They only give us one fullback. He does have I guess you would say, a fairly impressive for a fullback. He's got 24 all-purpose TDs, two-time All-Pro, 2,900 all-purpose yards. But I could think of others that I might rank here. If you're just looking at numbers, they do mention Ricard and Lorenzo Neal. Yeah. And I know the fullback kind of went away there for a while, too. That's another thing I think that hurts this list.
Yeah.
The fullback for a while was not even hardly used in NFL.
No, they just use extra tight end or extra offensive lineman mostly.
Tomlinson played from 2001 to 2011. Mike Allstott, I don't know when he retired. I think that's outside of the 25 years, is it not?
It's around.
Huh? It goes back a ways. Your receivers, Moss, no doubt.
Yeah.
Calvin Johnson, no doubt.
Yeah. I would
Julio.
put Julio on that list. Julio didn't have a lot of touchdowns per se, but you know, that Julio's prime, he was just as good as anybody else. So
And Terrell Owens, he 123 receiving TDs, nearly 13,000 yards. And he did it over, what is that, 5 teams? Wow.
Yeah.
There was nobody better when he played. They might have been close, but there was nobody better when he played. Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald, that's a good point. You're right. He should be on the list.
Yeah.
He should be on the list. Marvin
I
Harrison.
would put him backstage or, you know, on the bench. But yeah, he's up there with the rest of the guys.
Are you kidding me? They're putting Antonio Brown ahead on the bench ahead of a Fitzgerald. That's stupid. That's stupid.
Yeah.
That should be Fitzgerald right there. You're absolutely right.
Antonio Brown had, I'd say, 3 good years, but you know, where he was just like the star. Because you know, Antonio Brown was on the video game at one point, but man, you know, Fitzgerald had a body of work. You know, he was just good every year.
Is it too soon to put Justin Jefferson on this list? I mean, he's not played a lot of years. He does have a lot of stats, but should maybe Fitzgerald be there in place of Jefferson and put him on the bench along with maybe somebody else?
Yeah.
I kind of think so.
I'd give him a few more years to make, you know, to be up with those other guys. But he's, you know, right up there with those guys. But he's just, the body of work is not quite there.
I mean, I just think another year or two, I would think 2 years, he would be on that list for me. He's going to be there. Unless he goes crazy. And
Antonio Brown is a good example of that. You know, he was in Pittsburgh, he was the star. He was, you know, untouchable. But when he left Pittsburgh, his career just, the train wreck happened. And sometimes that happens when you leave a franchise team with a good, you know, good core and you go to other teams. That could affect your career in a negative way. And I think that Antonio Brown leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers was the biggest mistake of his life.
Yeah, sure. NC Native gives a great comment here, Steve Smith. He don't always credit that he deserves for the consistency he was. He was one of the best route runners in football, and his hands were incredible. He played much bigger than his size. Well, Jerry Rice Cook is outside the 25 years because I thought the same thing. I went, well, that's outside the 25. You're right, Cook. Michael Irvin outside the 25.
Yeah.
He's had quite a bit of catches since he left football, but it's the wrong kind. Antonio Gates should be on the tight end list. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Number
You're
one.
Correct.
You know, Tony Gonzalez as well. Tony Gonzalez and Antonio Gates would be my 2.
He's on the list. Let's go to tight ends. Rob Gronkowski. I don't think there's any way you don't put him here. 92 receiving TDs. Says it all. He was a touchdown machine. And it's such a shame that the other tight end decided to become a murderer than a football player, because as a tandem, they were unbeatable, man. But Gronk deserves the spot. Travis Kelce, definitely. He doesn't have as many TDs. He has more yards, though. He kind of got a little bit later start. He didn't really come on as early as some of these others did.
Yeah.
So he's been doing it since 2013. He is going to play again. These numbers are going to get added too. I think he's probably in the last year, maybe 2 of his career. I think he's fixed to step away like his brother.
Once he can retire, you know.
Yeah. Anthony, he says, who is our guys on spin the best overall tight end in the 21st century? Which means they were a great receiver and a great blocker. I want to say Gronk, but
Antonio Gates or Gronk, I would say.
But was Gates a blocker? Did he block as much as he received?
He wasn't caught on the block a ton, but from what I recall, he was a decent blocker, but he was so tall, so tall and so big.
Yeah.
That, they needed him to score touchdowns because they didn't really have a lot of weapons. But I think, he was a decent blocker.
It goes outside the 25 years, I believe. I think. Maybe not. There's a guy named Novacek in Dallas that proved it a long time too.
Yeah.
So it's a hard list, but Gonzalez deserves to be there. Look at the stats. 13,000 plus yards, 96 receiving TDs, 9-time All-Pro. He deserves to be on the list, and he is.
Oh, yeah.
When we get to the line, this is always debatable. These guys are definitely great at what they did. If you see a name that maybe should have been there, let me know or let us know. Joe Thomas for the Browns.
Yeah,
I
agree with that.
Joe Thomas was a machine out there. Trent Williams has always been talked about very highly. Faneca. I'm not sure on this one. I kind of think there might be some left guards that I would put there as I looked at this ahead of him. And then Steve Hutchison.
Yeah.
I have no problem with these two. These two, maybe I might submit some names that are ahead of that. They only put one center, and I think this is not right. As much as I like Jason Kelce, the only center you're going to put, I don't buy that.
The center Atlanta Falcons had, he was a all-pro center. His name don't come to me right now, but he was a good center. He joined the Falcons later in his career, but he had 10 good years before he went to the Falcons. So I would have put him up there as well.
Thank you. Orlando Pace and Jonathan Ogden. Yes. Thank you. You're absolutely correct. And look at their reasoning here. Marquise Pouncey made the Pro Bowl 9 times versus Kelce 7. Kelce's 6 first-team All-Pro selections are by far the most of any center. I don't really grade the All-Pro selection. I just look at what they did on the field. That's nice that you get that. But if that is what they're using as a grade, I disagree. I like Kelce. Don't get me wrong. He's a beast in there. But I think there's some other ones that have been left off. Olin Kreutz for the Bears was one heck of a center for a long time. Yeah, but can Kelce long snap? I don't know that he could. Nothing against Kelce. I just think they should have put more than – I know they're trying to put the line left, right, center, and all that, but they didn't even put like a backup here on the bench for this. And I question that. Right guard, Zach Martin of the Cowboys, Cook.
There you go.
Did it for a long time. Just retired not long ago.
The Cowboys did have a good line. They've always had a decent line.
I'm not sure on this right guard either, the Marshall Yanda. I kind of think I would – they put Jerry Evans on the practice squad. I don't know if I buy that one either. For the right
Alex
there.
That's right.
Lane Johnson, there's your Eagles there, broski. Lane Johnson still getting it done. Definitely a great player. Willie Anderson, oh yeah, without a doubt. Quiet man, big beast of a man. Edge rushers, let's get to defense real quick. There's your Cowboy again, Cook, DeMarcus Ware, Jared Allen, Myles Garrett. I don't have a problem with any of these. I know it's always debatable when you're talking about this. They also put in here Julius Peppers. Absolutely. TJ Watt and Strahan on the practice squad. Any comments? Myles Garrett, wow. Remember when he clocked this? We lost James again. Remember when he clocked the Michael Orr? Good thought there. Jason Taylor, another good thought. Yes. Okay, injury problems on Pouncey. I could get that. Thank you for that. Pure skill, the arm and the speed of which you release the ball, maybe, I don't know, better than, but we'll talk about that if we have time here in a second, Broski. But I think he's definitely in the mix there. Whoops, let me get James back up. There he is. Julius Peppers, I'm good with that. Defensive tackles,
Yeah.
Aaron Donald, excuse me. He's a beast.
Yeah, Sue
I like
has to be
Calais
on that
Campbell.
list.
I like Calais Campbell, but I'm not sure on that one. Chris Jones, yeah. They also put Kevin Williams and Cameron Hayward.
Yeah.
That's a hard position when you're talking about those defensive tackles.
Yeah, that
nose tackle.
Sue, I can't pronounce his first name, but man, he was dominant at one time.
Yeah. You're right.
He played for the I think Detroit Lions and Miami Dolphins, things like that.
Nose tackle Vince Wilfork, J.J. Watt. I like Grady. I know he hasn't done it for a whole career yet, but these guys deserve to be there. Linebackers, this is a hard one. There's so many great linebackers. No doubt Ray Lewis deserves to be there.
Yeah.
Bobby Wagner, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Urlacher, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Levante David, yes.
Yes. I think he still plays at Levante David. So he's had like a 20-year career almost. So.
Yeah, he's still playing. Kuechly didn't have a long career, but he got hurt a lot. This one might be debatable. There's some other middle linebackers that I might favor in that, honestly. Let's look at the quarterbacks. Kuechly, the other token Panther. Quarterbacks, Revis Island, Champ Bailey, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem there. Barber, Sherman, no problem. Patrick Peterson, and Jalen Ramsey on the bench. That's pretty strong right there.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's some lockdown guys right there.
It is, and Sherman brought the hits, boy.
Yeah,
and Barber did as well. The safeties, Ed Reed. God, it seems like he goes back more than 25 years. He played for a long time too.
Yeah, he coaches with Dion now.
Yeah,
at Colorado.
Troy Polamalu, definitely Brian Dawkins, Eagles, Earl Thomas, Seahawks. Don't have a problem. Yeah. They're calling Justin Tucker the greatest kicker of all time, or the past 25 years. Excuse me,
wow.
25 years.
Man.
I don't know about that. He's there. He's definitely right there. He did have a lot of points, but I guess we got.
I don't know how far it goes back, but Adam Vinatieri, he was money. For the Colts with Peyton, he won Peyton a lot of games. Adam Vinatieri. So there's been a lot of good kickers.
That's a great question. Do you guys think it hurt Sean Taylor? Yes, I do.
Yes.
That was so unfortunate, heartbreaking, and if his career is not cut short, he's going to be he's going to be in the top 5 all time of the greatest in his position. That guy could really get it done. That's a good point. Tucker might be the most consistent, but I don't know how you put him ahead of Vinatieri. I don't know. It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
These guys get it done. Shane Leckler, if you got to talk punters, I mean, he did average 47.6, say 48.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's not bad. So, you go out, you punt 3 or 4 times a game. Who was it used to wear the wristwatch out? That was that Miami Dolphins kicker. Remember him? He'd wear the wristwatch out because he knew he was never going to tackle anybody because he didn't get so much hang time.
The kicker, that Sebastian Janikowski, he was drafted in the first round by the Oakland Raiders, and he was the only kicker or punter drafted that high. And so the kicker at that time for Oakland was a premier position, and he had a good career with Oakland, but a first-round draft pick on a kicker, that would always be controversial.
Yeah. the returns, Hester and Cordell Patterson. I like your comment about Desmond Howard. I would put Desmond Howard ahead of Cordero. I like Patterson, I do, but at least put him on put two of them there. Martin Gramatica, wow, he's definitely great. Sebastian, he was up there on the list, but he didn't make the top. Matt Turk, I'm not as familiar with Matt. I remember the name.
I think he was with the Vikings or a team like that.
Yeah. So anyway, what do y'all think of the list? I think it's I don't think it's a bad list. Oops, I messed this up again. Hang on. I can never remember where. There we are. I'll just leave it like that. I thought it was a good list. I would have changed it a little bit. It'd be fun to come back and talk about all time. We might do that. Like I said, starting next week, we're going to be going through NFL teams by conference and the division they're in. So get ready. We'll start with the AFC. And we will go down through there, and we're going to take one college team or two a week, and we'll probably have to expand our time a little bit because we're really going to get busy on this show. If you can do that, James, if we could expand a little bit. Football season necessitates more than an hour, I think.
Yeah.
Broski says bad wide receiver list. What? I don't know if it's bad. I just think there's some tweaks I would do there.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many. And, if you're a fan of a team, kind of like the Julio situation, you would probably put your guy over another guy. But there's, with wide receivers, it's a premier position. So there's probably 10 guys you can, narrow down a list to. So there's a lot of guys as candidates. But as far as numbers wise, you can't argue with numbers.
Yeah. So we're going to start our camp tour next week. We got to start early to get them all in by the time the season starts. So we'll start with the AFC, and we'll start right there with Kansas City and grab those guys and go, and then we'll just maneuver our way through, and we'll start looking at these SEC, Big Ten, ACC teams. We'll start looking at some of those and highlighting.
We'll talk about Penn State for a week.
Do what?
We'll talk about Penn State for a week. We can do that.
We can talk about Penn State for a week. So, yeah. You know what? That is a knock on him that he didn't win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate he didn't have the defense around him that he should have had too. They had the best receiving crew as a whole in the league. They scored points. They couldn't stop anybody a lot of times. His release was probably faster than anybody you mentioned. He played at a high level for a heck of a long time. I don't never think of him as pure talent. I think of him among the elites, but it is true he didn't get it done. It's the same knock that oh my gosh, I just went blank. Our quarterback from Atlanta has
Matt Ryan. Yeah.
Matt Ryan. A lot of numbers, but no championship. And that's
you can have Hall of Fame numbers, but when you don't have a championship with the numbers, it's a negative.
It's a negative. So I'm looking forward to it, man. You guys are great. Hey, keep bringing all them comments. We're here every week. Sometimes the days change due to work schedule. It'll always be at 6, or we may start a little earlier because we might expand it a little bit. But I appreciate you guys bringing your thoughts. That's what we want. We're sports fans, and
a lot of comments today. That's great.
It is great. It's been the best show for comments, based off of contemporary. Say Steve Young, Montana, Elway, and Brett Favre. They say, well, again, all those guys won championship.
Yeah,
and with their numbers, I think Favre should have had more than he had, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's his fault. That's his fault.
Yeah.
But you can't doubt these other ones for what they've got done. I like Favre. Yeah. I liked him in college. I liked him in the pros. I still like him, even though he's done some things he shouldn't have. How did Boomer Esiason not go to Oklahoma? That would have been a great tie-in. Boomer
You know,
Sooner,
the
baby.
wildest interview I ever saw is they were doing the CBS Sports right before a football game, and Phil Simms was standing right next to Dan Marino or sitting right next to him, and he was talking about a quarterback, maybe a Philip Rivers or somebody, and he's like, well, you don't want to do a Dan Marino sitting right next to Dan Marino. That was just the look that Dan Marino gave Phil
Oh,
Simms at that time was just man, it was wild for him to say that right in front of the guy, for him not to do a Dan Marino. It's
wow.
you never know what you'll see on TV.
The last thing I'll say on this, and I'll get James's last thoughts before we go. Me and Cook, who's in the chat, I think he's still out there. Maybe he's still there. It's one of the greatest thrills of my life. Me and Cook, we heard about this NFL Legends that was going to be held at the up at the Gaylord Hotel and Conference Center and all that in Nashville. We rode up. Actually, I think I worked the night before. I slept on the way some. But we went to this NFL Legends. And let me tell you, dude, when I say Legends, Johnny Unitas was in the house.
Wow.
Johnny Unitas and what's the other all-time Hall of Famer back in the 60s? Oh, I just went blank. I just went blank. Green Bay. Anyway, everybody was there. Plunkett
Roger
was
Staubach,
there.
no, he was Cowboys. That's right.
Yeah, he was Cowboys. Actually, they had Danny was there. Danny represented the Cowboys.
Okay.
Steve Barkowski was there.
Okay.
It wasn't Roger Starbuck, but who was the other one? They were the two big ones. So you had to stand in a long line to get the autograph. I didn't want to do that and miss the whole conference. Downstairs, they had a lot of the other quarterbacks at tables. You go table to table and get the autograph, and we did get some. I just went up and stood by their table and just sort of listened to them talk. And I thought, for no money except for the cost to get in, I'm sitting here and listening to the greatest quarterbacks of their time, and maybe of some would say all time. And those guys are, a lot of them are dead now. It was really amazing. And I don't know how often they did that or if they did it again, but we just hit it right. And Cook, he actually bumped into Plunkett. And let me tell you, he's a big guy. That was Bart Starr. Yes. Thank you. Bart Starr. Yes. And Unitas, and they had them sort of together, just separated by a walkway. And I went up, I stood right in the middle, and just listened to these men talk. I thought this is truly amazing. Just anyway, amazing. James, any last thoughts before we go? I think it's been a great show.
Yeah, it's been a great show. We want to keep an eye on the NBA playoffs, and let's see if Indiana can take it to a Game 7. You always want to see the Game 7s. You want the series to go that far. And the Braves, we didn't talk a whole lot about the Braves tonight, but can they sweep the Mets? That would be a big, big thing for the Braves to sweep the Mets. Maybe they can start a hot streak and compete for a wild card if at all possible down the stretch. So there's some things we can look forward to next week's show, and we'll talk about the NFL and touch on some college. It's a lot of great things to talk about in the next few weeks.
Last response I'll give to this question. That's a hard choices, but given if they all remained healthy, my heart wants to say Bo Jackson, or my head says Bo Jackson, but I got to tell you, my heart, I was a big fan of Earl Campbell.
Yeah.
His size and speed was, I still can't believe the speed and the agility this guy had at his size, which he took a lot of hits too. Walter Payton, yes, definitely. Yes, Adrian Peterson. 2,000 yards, but I'm just saying, for me, if it's my team and I'm building, and they're all young, I got to go Earl Campbell.
Yeah,
but Walter Payton would be a tough choice too. So, but he didn't give me that choice. James, any thoughts there?
Well, I like those, but I was a big Barry Sanders fan, but he was with the Detroit Lions, so he retired early because he played for the Detroit Lions. Had he been on the Cowboys, he may have played 15 years, but it's just sometimes who you play for, and it plays a factor in your career.
I will say this to Broski's Walter Payton comment. It still sucks that they didn't let him score a touchdown in Super Bowl. Refrigerator Perry got it.
Yeah.
Yes, Broski, absolutely. Hey, guys, great show. Come back each week. You guys make it worthwhile, and I love you guys. And James, thank you so much. Dean couldn't make it. He'll be back next week with Dean's notes. Yeah, the fist bump. And we'll talk about it, maybe expanding the show a little bit. We're already been moving over it anyway. And we're going to start digging into college and NFL football and keeping up with other sports. We don't have seasons. We just have sports. Yeah. So we'll still talk hockey. We'll talk soccer even. I don't care. And, yes, we're going to talk WNBA, Broski. We're not going to talk cook-offs or anything. We'll even talk about the hot dog eating contest when it gets time for that.
There you go. Joey Chestnut's back. He's back. Let's see if he wins another one.
Back? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
he's back.
He's back for this tournament. Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys, we're going out with some music, and we appreciate you. Have a great evening. 8 o'clock, we'll be going with the Cornbread Nation show. Rob will be joining me, and let me find the music here. I got to figure which one here. I got to redo some of these songs in here so I can find them easier. All right, here we go. See you guys.